Howdy ho YouTube, Major Cord here, and this is going to be an entry into Brotherskeepers111's 6,000 subscriber giveaway, so congratulations on that. Basically he wants to see our EDC knives. If we have a favorite one, show that, something like that. Anyone who has been subscribed to my channel for any length of time knows that I really, really love my blue Spyderco Endura. It's probably my favorite knife. And as an EDC knife, I think it rocks. Especially if you're a fan of larger knives like I am. I think it's just king. And I'm not a fan of larger knives because I necessarily like the blade length. I mean, I'm fine with a 4-inch blade, but you don't necessarily always need that much blade to get a task done. I just like having a lot of handle because I have big hands. So if you could put the blade of a Spyderco Delica, which is I think like a little under 3 inches, on this handle, I would be perfectly satisfied. And the VG10 steel is wonderful. I think in the almost a year that I've had it, I got this in August, I've only had to take it to a sharpener once for some really hardcore sharpening. And even then it wasn't really dull. It was just beginning to get toothy. So, I mean, the use I put it through, any of my knives really, isn't really hardcore use. It's just standard EDC tasks, opening boxes, cutting tape, packages, stuff like that. So, for me, it does take a while for a knife to get truly dull, but I do like all my knives to be, phone book paper shaving sharp, so once they lose this ability, they get touched up, and I like them to get back to that point. But, yeah, so I think after 3 months I took it to my Lansky turn box and put a 40-degree bevel on it, as opposed to Spyderco's native 30-degree bevel. And since then I've been rocking that, and I think I've only touched it up another 2 times since then. And that was back in, what, November? And it's April now. So, this is probably my most carried knife since I've gotten it. And it's one of my favorites. However, recently, the Kershaw Ram has stepped in for a close second. And I gotta tell you, this knife has really surprised me. I picked this up around Christmas time, and this is, I'm actually going to zoom out so you can see my haphazard setup here, but I just want to show you the action of this knife. Not only is it buttery smooth with the flipper, but this Hawk's, I think it's the Hawk lock or something like that, it really is just buttery smooth. You can, once you get practiced with it, you can close it one-handed, and you can actually open it with the lock if you get good enough. And of course I'm going to be eating my words. See, there you go. You can close it and open it with the lock. Kind of like an Axis lock. Takes a bit of practice to do it right, but it's a really cool, nifty design, and it's not assisted. So for not being assisted, it is really wicked fast, and it is smooth. This is the smoothest opening knife that I own. Just with, once you overcome the detent, which is quite a strong detent, thanks to the lock, it's like it's on bearings, which I don't think it is. But seriously, it's like someone put a nice dollop of Astroglide in there. There is no friction whatsoever. So between point to point of the lock engaging either with the detent or in the fully locked position, there is no friction. And that makes for a really buttery smooth opening knife. And you can close it with one hand, which I really do enjoy. So, both of these actually you can close with one hand. But yeah, the Kershaw Ram. And this is running, I believe, Kershaw's 14C28, I think it's, 14C28N Sandvik. It's not marked anywhere on the blade. And this is actually a blem knife that I picked up from KershawGuide.com, which is why it has the 4, come on, focus. Focus, you know you want to. Come on, there we go. The 4 X's marked on the blade there. when I got it, it was in perfect condition. I searched this knife for about an hour and had no idea what was wrong with it. These scratches here, if it'll show up on camera, my lighting's not the best, are just from my use. Rubbing up against stuff in my pocket and, you know, a little use I put it through. So, the black coating is not necessarily the strongest, but it's a very good knife. And anyone who does not own one of these should own one of these. And before this video gets too long, I'm going to bring in the third knife to my holy trinity of knives. And that is some sort of scout knife for me. Some sort of, well, not necessarily a scout knife, but recently it has been a scout pattern of knife. Essentially just a Swiss Army knife of sorts. Recently it has been this Imperial scout knife. I made a video on this recently. But even before this, it was the Rough Rider scout knife that I purchased a while back, and before that it was a Victorinox Sportsman. But I always try to have some sort of people-friendly knife, and recently I've really fallen in love with the scout pattern, and this is a very wonderful example of it. This one's probably like 20 or 30 years old, and I picked it up off of eBay. But they're just fantastic knives. They have all the tools you're really going to need. You know, can opener. This one sticks for some reason, but it's an old knife. Bottle opener, screwdriver, and an awl, along with your knife blade. And you can just do so many things with these knives. I mean, you can use the awl for punching holes in leather belts, which I've done more of recently than I care to admit. Not in the expanding direction, thankfully, but you know, you can use the awl to scrape stuff, especially this awl design, which I really like. They're just so handy, and they take up next to no space in your pocket. So, if I don't have either of these two knives on me, or any of the other, you know, 20, 30 some odd knives that I own, I will definitely have a traditional pocket folder. 9 out of 10 times it's going to be a scout pattern knife, or some sort of similar Victorinox knife, most likely containing these 4 tools, because they're just so gosh darn useful. And you know, you're always going to find a use for these tools. So there you go. Before this video really gets long and I start rambling, my holy trinity: the Spyderco Endura, full flat ground and blue, but any Endura really is going to cut it, no pun intended. Kershaw Ram, and just any scout knife. That'll do it for me. Good luck to everyone who enters, and thank you, Brothers Keepers, for, you know, hosting this wonderful contest. I am out of here, because it's, you know, like 2:15 in the morning. So, good night, everybody.